Good, good. So I'm Dan Stevens. I'm the CEO and founder of Kickbox. We're an email deliverability company. We have APIs and technologies that help ensure you get into the inbox. And it's no coincidence that I'm going to talk a bit about deliverability. Specifically, what criteria today is important to ensure that you get into the inbox versus getting the kiss of death that is the spam folder. So in the early 2000s, I started an anti-spam company, and I ran that up for about 12 years. And that was a really, really exciting time. Some of you might remember there was kind of an arms race going on. Spam became a real big problem. Everybody was flooding everyone's inbox. And so companies like mine were creating technology. Sometimes we wrote our own technologies and we mixed it in with other third-party technologies to create these kind of cocktails that would essentially stop spam. So we'd write this cocktail and spam would stop pouring into our customers' inboxes. And then we'd just go out to the bars and be like, hey, we fixed email. Ladies, how's it going? And that worked for about an hour and a half. And then we got back to the office and spam was flooding in again, right? Spammers figured out a way to get around the filters, and so we'd go, crap! And we'd figure out what they were doing now that we're not catching, and we'd write new technologies and new filters and add in different things, and it would stop, and we'd say, aha, we got you now you can't get through. And about an hour and a half later, they'd be getting through, and this would go on and on. This went on for years and years. And most of you kind of stood outside of that, and you were wondering why you're getting so much damn spam in your inbox and so much good email into your spam folder, and you didn't really get to see what was going on behind the scenes, and that's continued to change, but more recently, there's a set of best practices that we can all follow that helps ensure we're gonna make it into the inbox. And that's it, just use a good font and create some content and you're good to go. Thanks, guys. So it's not the case, but this actually used to be the case. This was really, in the very beginning days, anti-spam was all about content. That's really all we cared about, that's all we looked at. And if your email had certain words, then we liked it or we disliked it, and that was basically the end of the discussion. But as things went on, that became less and less important. And nowadays, I don't even really advise that you worry about the content of your email. Now, the marketing people all know that content, of course, is very important for engagement, and that is absolutely the case. But create that content that's going to have that excellent engagement, and then don't worry about, is this going to trip up a spam filter? It's probably not. It's not that big of an issue anymore. So what are the current issues? First of all, let's talk about another myth, and that's that there's 3 easy steps for email deliverability, or that there's some silver bullet. That's not the case. There are hundreds of thousands of email servers and email service providers out there on the internet. They all have different configurations. They all have different cocktails of anti-spam technologies and policies, and those are changing on a daily basis. So there isn't really a set that you can do to get into the inbox guaranteed. The best we can do is say, we're gonna do these best practices, and then we should generally, most of the time, make it into the inbox and very rarely make it to the spam folder. That's really the best we can do. Okay, DKIM and SPF, how many people feel confident? I won't call on you, but feel confident you kind of understand what that is. 2 people, 3, all right, great. So DKIM and SPF is a technology that ensures nobody can spoof your domain and send email pretending to be from you, which can be very damaging to your reputation. And a common misconception about that is you set up DKIM and SPF, now you're in favor with the Gmails and Yahoos and AOLs and they like you. The case, that's not really the case in reality. You have to go a lot further than setting up DKIM. By all means, do set that up. That will protect your reputation, which we'll talk about next, but that's just the beginning, and that's all it does is protect your reputation. So I joked that content is what it's all about, and it used to be, but today it is all about reputation. That's really all there is to it. So you just can kind of think of yourself, put yourself in a spammer mindset. If I were to pop onto the internet with a new IP that hasn't been sending email and send a ton of email, then that's going to look very suspicious. You're likely to go in the spam folder because that's what spammers do. If I register a new domain and start sending a ton of email, that's what spammers do. If I send emails and there's very low engagement, few people are opening it, or people are clicking the report spam button, That's what spammers get. That's kind of their experience. And so those sorts of things are seen by Gmail and all these major ESPs, and they start to think if that's the sort of signatures you're putting out there, then perhaps you're a spammer. So this is the slide that dotmailer paid us $50,000 to put up. And no, but so with a lot of this stuff, and I asked the SPF question, and there was only a very few people who understood SPF and DKIM, and that's great. And that's largely because dotmailer, for many of these things, they abstract that for you, and they make sure you're doing best practices with DKIM and SPF, and that you're warming up your IPs instead of just spewing tons of email out into oblivion. But dotmailer is not your mom, and they're not going to do everything for you. There's some things that you have to do by yourself. The first thing is send emails regularly, and that's kind of counterintuitive, but if you think about it, if I subscribe to a newsletter of yours and you wait a year to send me anything, I'm not going to remember you guys. And so I'm going to, at best, just ignore it, and that's low engagement, which looks bad and makes you look spammy. Or worse, I'm going to mark you as spam, which makes you look extremely spammy. So exactly how regularly should you be sending emails? Somebody a lot smarter than me has to answer that question. They have to look at your specific company and your products and how you guys operate. But definitely you need to be setting up a regimen. Don't just collect a bunch of emails and say, we'll figure that out months down the road. You need to have a plan in place. This one is obvious, but it always bears repeating, and that's to require opt-in data. And I know every single one of you here always only works with opt-in data, and you know that that's dotmailers in their terms and condition, but it's not something that you can just adopt at your level. Let's say it's the marketing side of things. It's an entire global thing for your entire organization. So for instance, if a new sales guy starts at your company and you're a marketing director, and he's trying to meet these high quotas that the sales team have set for him, and I have a brilliant idea, I'm going to purchase a list and send to it. Well, now he's dumbed down your entire brand, he's damaged your entire reputation, and he's potentially dragged your entire domain and everything right into the spam folder. And so now your head's on the chopping block because all the marketing emails to the opt-in data that you send might get routed into the spam folder, and there's no real easy fix to get out of the doghouse once you're in it. So it's important to talk to the higher ups and say, hey, as an ethos, we need to adopt opt-in only data, and we need to be training our people from marketing to sales and all around the organization to only work with opt-in data. And lastly, verify at point of capture. And James was talking about in the speech before this one about subscription bombing, people writing little scripts that sign up hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users to a service. And if you don't use what's called confirmed opt-in, which says not only is this email address real, but also I, the person who provided it, am the owner of the email address. If you're not doing that, then you're vulnerable to somebody subscribing hundreds of thousands of users to your 30-day free trial or to your newsletter or what have you. And then you go out and you unwittingly send a massive spam campaign. So there are a couple of technologies out there that make confirmed opt-in a API call away from being integrated Kickbox, and that's what you should check out. So this is the current state of the art. It used to be all about content. Now it's more about character and common sense.